Medieval castles were not warm places of comfort. They were built to survive attack, not winter. Stone walls rose thick and high, designed to stop arrows and fire, but they did nothing to stop the cold. In many cases, they made it worse. Stone absorbed cold slowly and released it slowly. Once winter settled in, the walls held that cold day and night. A castle did not warm up when the sun rose. It stayed cold constantly. Even in summer, interiors could feel damp and chilled. Fireplaces existed, but they were inefficient. Heat escaped quickly through massive chimneys. Most rooms had only one fire, often far from where people slept. Warmth reached only a few steps. Beyond that, air remained cold and heavy. Windows were narrow slits. They were designed for defense, not light or heat. Glass was rare and expensive. Most windows were open holes covered with cloth, wood, or thin animal skin. Cold air moved freely inside. Wind passed through corridors without resistance. Floors were stone, always cold, always damp. No insulation separated the living space from the ground. Moisture crept upward. Cold rose into bones. Furniture offered little relief. Beds were wooden frames. Mattresses were straw. They absorbed moisture and cold easily. Blankets helped, but not enough. People slept fully clothed, sometimes with hats, sometimes with gloves. Castles were tall, open structures. Heat rose and disappeared. High ceilings trapped cold air below. Drafts moved constantly. Doors were heavy but poorly sealed. Every hallway acted like a wind tunnel. The larger the castle, the colder it became. Servants tried to block drafts with tapestries. Thick fabrics covered walls. They reduced airflow slightly. They did not create warmth. They only softened the cold. Daily life adjusted to discomfort. People gathered in the smallest rooms. Great halls were used sparingly in winter. Meals were rushed. Social life contracted around fires. Private chambers became crowded. Cold shaped behavior. It dictated movement, limited activity, even sleep. Illness followed cold closely. Damp air weakened lungs. Joint pain was constant. Infections spread easily. Recovery was slow. Medical understanding was limited. Cold was endured, not treated. Castles also lacked proper chimneys in earlier periods. Smoke filled rooms. Eyes burned. Breathing became difficult. Warmth came with suffocation. People chose discomfort over smoke when possible. Clothing was layered heavily indoors. Wool was essential. Fur was prized. Wealth determined warmth. Poorer inhabitants suffered more. Even nobles endured cold daily. Luxury did not defeat winter. Castles symbolized power from the outside. Inside, they tested endurance. They were shelters against enemies, but against the cold, they offered little protection. People did not try to make castles comfortable. They tried to survive inside them. Warming a castle was almost impossible with medieval technology. Fire was the only source of heat, and fire was unreliable. Wood was expensive. In many regions, forests were controlled by the nobility or the crown. Fuel had to be rationed. Large fires burned quickly and left ash and smoke. Keeping a fire alive through the night required constant attention. Servants slept in shifts to feed flames. Even then, rooms cooled rapidly. Heat did not travel well. A fire warmed only what stood close to it. Stone walls absorbed warmth and erased it. Corridors acted as channels for cold air. Every opening pulled heat away. People adapted instead of fixing the problem. They moved their lives closer to the fire. Beds were dragged near hearths. Curtains were hung around sleeping areas to trap a little warmth. Canopies were not decoration. They were insulation. Multiple people slept in the same space, sometimes in the same bed. Body heat mattered. Clothing became part of survival. Wool layers were worn indoors constantly. Fur-lined garments were signs of status and necessity. Even during meals, cloaks stayed on. Hands were numb. Breath was visible. Water froze inside rooms during severe winters. Toilets were exposed. Night trips through freezing corridors were dreaded. Cold shaped architecture slowly. Later castles added smaller rooms, lower ceilings, more fireplaces. But defensive needs always came first. Thick walls remained. Open spaces remained. Comfort was sacrificed for safety. Cold affected health constantly. Chronic coughs were common. Joint pain never faded. Old wounds worsened in damp air. Children and the elderly suffered most. Winter mortality increased sharply. Illness spread in enclosed, cold spaces. There was little understanding of hygiene or ventilation. Stagnant air and cold combined to weaken bodies. Psychological strain followed physical discomfort. Long winters meant isolation, darkness, limited movement. Cold eroded morale. People gathered around fire not only for warmth but for sanity. Silence and stillness pressed heavily. Cold slowed everything. Work, conversation, thought. Castles were loud during war, quiet during winter. Servants endured the worst conditions. They slept in corridors, near doors, in unheated spaces. Their labor kept nobles warm. Their suffering was invisible. Even royalty endured discomfort. Kings complained of cold chambers. Queens fell ill. No amount of wealth could fully defeat stone and wind. Cold was accepted as part of life. There was no expectation of comfort. Endurance was valued. Strength meant tolerating discomfort. Warmth was temporary. Cold was constant. Castles remained symbols of power, not homes. They protected against enemies, not against winter. The cold inside medieval castles was not a flaw. It was a consequence. Defense shaped everything. Human comfort came last. And for those who lived inside them, cold was not an inconvenience. It was daily reality. Endured, accepted, unchanged for centuries. Winter defined the rhythm of life inside castles. When cold set in, movement slowed. People woke later. They stayed closer to heat. Large areas of the castle were abandoned until spring. Only essential spaces remained active. Great halls became empty stone chambers. Footsteps echoed. Breath hung in the air. Food preparation changed with the season. Fresh food disappeared. Meals became heavier. Salted meat, hard bread, Hot stews meant to warm the body. Nutrition declined. Vitamin deficiency weakened immune systems. Cold and poor diet worked together. Sleep offered little escape. Stone pulled heat from the body. Even layered blankets could not fully protect. People shifted positions constantly to preserve warmth. Sleep was shallow, rest incomplete. Fatigue accumulated. Animals were sometimes brought indoors, not for comfort, for survival. Their presence added warmth. Smell was ignored. Warmth mattered more. Water management became difficult. Wells froze. Buckets iced over. Bathing stopped almost entirely. Hygiene declined. Skin infections increased. Lice spread. Cold discouraged washing. Disease found easy ground. Lighting was limited. Short days meant darkness dominated. Candles were expensive. Fires provided light but consumed fuel. Evening activities ended early. Isolation deepened. Mental strain increased. Cold made people irritable. Arguments flared easily. Patience thinned. The castle felt smaller with each passing week. Work did not stop. Repairs continued. Walls cracked in frost. Wood warped. Roofs leaked. Cold damaged structures as much as it damaged bodies. Servants worked with numb hands. Mistakes increased. Punishment followed. Cold amplified hardship. Children suffered quietly. They lacked body mass to retain heat. Illness claimed many. Parents had little protection to offer. Old people withdrew. Movement became painful. Cold stiffened joints permanently. Many never regained strength after winter. Fear accompanied winter. Fear of sickness, fear of isolation, fear of dying unseen in a stone room. Medical help was limited. Diagnosis was guesswork. Treatment relied on faith. Prayer replaced warmth. Fire became ritual. People watched flames constantly. They measured life by how long heat lasted. When a fire died, anxiety followed. Relighting it took time. Cold returned quickly. This constant battle shaped mentality. Resilience was not optional. Endurance became virtue. Complaints meant weakness. Strength was silence. Castles taught people to suffer quietly. The cold was not conquered. It was accepted, built into stone, passed through generations. Every castle held centuries of winter. Every wall remembered cold. And every person who lived inside carried it in their bones.